Okay, so this week we started reading the Proverbs over again. So Proverbs 1 starts out, verse 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. I'm going to go into a little bit of who is Solomon. In 1 Chronicles 28, verses 5 through 6, David said, "And of all my sons, for the Lord hath given me many sons, he hath chosen Solomon, my son, to sit upon the throne of the king of the Lord over Israel. And he said unto me, Solomon thy son, he shall build my house and my courts, for I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father." Before David died, he had a conversation with God, and God told him that he chose Solomon to be his son, that he would be a father to him. David would no longer be there to lead and guide Solomon, so God was going to have that father-son relationship with Solomon. In 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 5 through 14, in Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I shall give thee." And Solomon said, "Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in, and thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?" And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, "Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days." And in 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 29 to 34, "And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much, and largeness of heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol. And his fame was in all nations round about. And he spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And he spake of trees from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springeth out of the wall. He spake also of beasts, and of fowl, and of creeping things, and of fishes. And there came all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. God gave Solomon a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like him before him, nor after him would anyone rise up like him. God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding, so as the sand that is on the seashore. So Solomon, a man full of wisdom, wrote Proverbs. Proverbs 1, 2 through 6. "To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtly to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings." Solomon wrote the Proverbs to help us to know wisdom and instruction, to help us to understand or distinguish the words of knowledge, to help us to receive instruction in wisdom and in justice, or what is right or righteous, judgment, the discernment between right and wrong, equity, or what is even, upright, or straight, to give to give discretion or cautiousness to the simple, and to give the young man or the servant knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear. The word here is shema, which means to hear, but not just to casually hear, but to hear with intelligence, to really listen with full attention, to produce a reaction of obedience to what you're hearing. It means to hear and obey. A wise man will increase in learning or will receive the instruction, and a man of understanding or one who distinguishes or discerns will attain to wise counsels, meaning they will seek out those who are wise and walking in the ways of God for guidance and direction. Proverbs 1, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the first thing, or the first in order of importance. The fear of the Lord is the foundation of knowledge or of knowing God. If we're not building on the right foundation, we will fall. But what is the fear of the Lord? To understand the fear of the Lord, we have to go to Exodus 20, verse 20, to the first reference of fearing God. And Moses said unto the people, "Fear not, don't be afraid, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear, or reverence, may be before your faces, that you sin not." Here, God had just spoken down the 10 Commandments. Moses told the people not to be afraid of God speaking to them, but rather, God had come to prove them, or test them. He gave them his commandments. He put his fear before their faces for them to reverence him, to see whether they would hear and obey, or if they would sin against him. This is reiterated in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 10 through 13. Especially the day that thou stoodest before the Lord thy God in Horeb, when the Lord said unto me, "Gather me the people together, and I will make them hear." And that word is shema, so hear and obey. "My words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice, and he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments, and he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone." When we follow God's 10 commandments, we have the fear of the Lord. The 10 commandments are the beginning of the knowledge of God. Without the 10 commandments, we can't truly know God. John taught this to the first century church in 1 John chapter 2, verse 3. "And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments." And Jesus said in John 14:21, "He that hath my commandments and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me, and he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him." When we keep the commandments of God, he will then manifest himself to us, or make himself known to us. The 10 commandments of God are just the beginning. They are the foundation of knowledge, the beginning of knowing God and the wisdom of God. I'm going to go back to Proverbs chapter 7 and pick up where we left off. But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Fools despise or regard the commandments of God and his instructions with disgust or hatred. Fools disregard the commandments and instructions of God. Verse 8, "My son, hear," that's Shema, "hear and obey the instruction." This word instruction is chastisement, reproof, correction, warning, or doctrine of thy father. He wants us to hear his instructions. He wants us to take heed to it, of thy father, and forsake not the law, where there is Torah, a precept or statute, of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament, which is something attached, of grace, graciousness, kindness, favor, unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. The instructions and precepts of God are what binds his grace, his kindness and favor to us. And we're just going to read some more out of Proverbs. Proverbs 2, 1 through 22. "My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commands with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding, yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord, and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord giveth wisdom out of his mouth, cometh understanding knowledge and understanding. The commandments of God are wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. If we seek after wisdom, the commandments of God, as we would search for the finest treasure, then we will understand the fear of God and we will find the knowledge of God. For God speaks knowledge and understanding. He speaks wisdom. Verse 7, he layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths of judgment and preserveth the way of the saints. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and judgment and equity, yea, every good path. God promises great things for those who walk in his ways. He promises to lead us on the good path. Verse 10, when wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things, who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked, and they froward in their paths, to deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger, which flattereth with her words, which forsaketh the guide of her youth, and forgetteth the covenant of her God. For her house inclineth unto death, and her paths unto the dead. None that go under her return again, neither take they hold of the paths of life. When we have a love for God's commandments, discretion and understanding will keep us from the way of the evil man. Discerning and knowing the commands of God will deliver us from the strange woman or the false religious system. The false system speaks flattering words. They sound good, they're enticing, they even sound right, but when you shema, or hear and obey the commands of God, you are able to discern the false from the truth. The strange woman or the false religious system forgets the covenant of God. It forgets the commandments of God, and her paths lead to death. Verse 20, that thou mayest walk in the way of good men, and keep the paths of the righteous. For the upright shall dwell in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it. But the wicked shall be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted out of it. God promises that those who walk in his ways will get to dwell in the land, while those who refuse to will be cut off. Like the parable that Jesus taught of the wheat and the tares in Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 to 30 and 36 to 43. I'm not going to read it today, but you can read it on your own. Now we're going to go into Proverbs 3. My son, forget not my law, Torah, precepts, and statutes. But let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. God's commandments add length of days, long life, and peace. Verse 3, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. God's commandments allow us to find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Verse 5, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to their bones. Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth. So if God is dealing with you about something and you feel weary, just know that God loves you, and he wants you to be walking with him. But happy, verse 13, happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that canst desire are not to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches are honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retaineth her. After the chastening, when wisdom is found, you'll be happy. Wisdom is more precious than the finest treasure. Wisdom is pleasant, and peace, and life. Verse 19, the Lord by wisdom hath founded the earth. By understanding hath he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. God speaks wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Verse 21, my son, let not them depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall there be life unto thy soul, and grace to thy neck. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked, when it cometh. For the Lord shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken. God promises sweet things to those who keep his wisdom and discretion. God and his word is our confidence. Verse 27, withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Say not unto thy neighbor, go and come again, and tomorrow I will give. When thou hast it by thee, devise not evil against thy neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. Strive not with a man without cause, if he have done thee no harm. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways, for the froward is an abomination to the Lord, but his secret is with the righteous. The curse of the Lord is in the house of the wicked, but he blesseth the habitation of the just. Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth peace unto the lowly. The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools. There are promises also for those who don't keep wisdom. Let's go back to Proverbs chapter 1, verse 20. Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, how long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words to you. The prophet Ezekiel prophesied in Ezekiel 11, starting in verse 19, and I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, and I will take my stony heart out of their flesh, and will give them an heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my ordinances and do them. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God. But as for them whose heart walketh after the heart of their detestable things and their abominations, I will recompense their way upon their own heads, saith the Lord God. And Jeremiah 31:33, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. God pours out his spirit so that we will walk in his ways. Because the rest of Proverbs chapter 1 says, because I have called, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind. When distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel, they despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from the fear of evil. While reading that last part, it reminded me of Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 through 14, the parable of the marriage feast. But wisdom is calling. Do we have ears to hear, and eyes to see, and hearts to perceive?